Defensive ID and defender ID, things that, when we get to line of scrimmage, we identify our front on most plays and recognizing who's who and what's what to set the rules in motion for our plays. All defensive fronts are going to be categorized as 1 and 5 to set the count, the rules, and the communication and process for us on most plays. Not all, but most. Our quarterback calls the front, and it's the reason because he controls the snap count. He's in control. He has the best seat in the house, and he can distinguish between gray area defenders of how I would want to see that front. Now, for the back end, for shell, we use shells and dells for the back end. That's safety structure and depth eyes and leverage of the corner. That's how we talk about the back end more so than just true coverages. And then there's some key defenders and defender alignments that we need to be aware of on a lot of our plays that can dictate where we run, what we run, how we run it, play packages, and the whole 9 yards. And you can see that there. But we need to know if it's a zero nose, who the first, second down linemen are, not on every play, but on some of these things, who the play side backer is, if it's a zero Mike 4-3, who the force and bonus defenders are, and then special alignments, things that we'll touch on throughout the video series, is reduced, unreadable, 2 inside for level 1 defensive lineman. For the backers, what's a blockable backer, what's a bandit, and a jack and a rat for force and bonus defenders. Okay, 8-man fronts is our first category of defenses. There are 3 of those, and there's 2 7-man fronts. These are what we call rover defenses because these outside guys right here are rovers, and they're consistent in every 8-man front. 40 defense to us is really a 4-2, but the way we really distinguish that for the quarterback is there's no zero defender. I know this guy's a shade on the center, but he's a shade, not a zero, and that's a difference to us. And so that's a big deal, by the way, what's a shade and what's a zero in terms of what front it's going to be. That's a 40. 3-3 is an 8-man front. You can't see the rovers here, but they're out there. And we try to see a 30 through the eyes of a 40, kind of like taking the first down lineman on each side of a 40 and stacking it up over the ball. And that's kind of made more sense to our kids and making sense to this defense than any other ones for rule blocking. And then a 5-1. A lot of guys call this a single backer bear. It's similar to a 3-3, but it's different. I've tried to make those 2 fronts 1, but I can't. 5 down linemen or 5 linemen up with a 0 stack. And again, your rover defenders or overhang guys are out here as well. But that is a 0 nose, if you can't tell that. And then your 2 7-man or safety fronts. Safety defenses we identify. One is a 4-3, and that's a 0 Mike guy, usually with 4 down linemen. And then these backers in the 4-3 can be any number of places. They can be 6-1, they can be hipped, they can be stacked or in the box. More time than not, they're definitely playing outside the end in this defense. But we don't distinguish between a 4-3 and a 6-1 as far as how the quarterback calls it. We may have to distinguish where those backers are on certain plays, but that's a 4-3 family defense there. And then the basic indicators of a 5-2 or 50 is basically a 0 nose with 2 backers right here, or maybe a little wider, doesn't matter. That's a 0 nose cylinder. And then usually 5 down linemen present, but also safety defense. Some people call this a 5-2 or 3-4. Personnel or how they get to it really is not important. It's identifying it. And then for the back end, we talk about shells and dells. This would be a simple 1 safety off corner look is how we would communicate it if we needed to, or at least see it. This would be a 2 shell press. Maybe man-to-man, sky support all the way, but it's 0 press. Out here, and we got 2 safeties. Doesn't mean it's covered 2. We got 2 safeties there. And that's a pretty good look at the alignment of our tie backs. You can see because his toes are where his hands used to be, he looks closer. And because we deepen them up a little bit, that distance looks a lot deeper than it really is because he's moved up. So that's a pretty good picture of where we should be aligned. And then we have a 0 shell press. Sometimes safeties in this defense will line up at back or depth, doesn't matter. And that's where you get, well, there's 9 in the box. Well, guess what? We got 9 in the box too, so no biggie there. This is not a big part of what we identify, but we do communicate defensive lineman shades to our guys like everybody does. But the biggest thing we talk about with our quarterbacks is tight tech and wide tech because all of our checks are tied to that concept. Defensive stunts. Guys, I won't say a whole lot about this. Everybody has their way of identifying or treating stunts. But stunts to us are fastballs, and we always teach and play fastball football every snap. The way we categorize or view fronts or stunts, rather, the front stunts and they blitz from the back. So any perimeter or force defender comes from the outside would be a blitz. Anything in the box or front is a stunt. That's just for communication purposes. Doesn't have much meaning besides that. We keep it simple. The only stunt that I'm really fear or really have to bring attention to is some type of interior X stunt when a backer and a D lineman exchange, especially out of a 3-3. That's something we have to work on. Our play soundness should handle most stunts by our schemes. We try to discourage stunting by picking them up and by keeping them from timing up our cadence. So vary your snap tempos would help a lot. And we always prepare for them regardless of the opponent, if they are a big stunt team or not. We're always stunt ready, and awareness, I think, is a big thing.